Good evening and welcome along to another episode of the Blues Brothers podcast, the alternative Rangers podcast. Danny Rohl was too cool for school as our new manager's 100% domestic win rate sends Brendan Rodgers packing with his tail between his legs behind the wheel of a Skoda. Killie pied as Rangers manage our first league victory at Ibrox this season, and now attention's turned to Easter Road, where we hope to pull the Hibs scants down as often as Jane Park drops hers. And as we enter the time warp where Martin O'Neill is the manager of them, we look ahead to Sunday with fond Hampden memories as Big Bert rattles the top bin, where Neil McCann's cross found Peter Lovencrant's header. Moles couldn't get there, but Caniggia could. And the rest, as they say, is history. Joining me to discuss all that and more is my very good friend, Mr. Ross Clark. Ross, how are we, mate?
I'm good, pal. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing no bad, mate. I'm doing no bad. Like I say, a wee bit of positivity, shall we say, on the back of Sunday, which is good. Although, I guess a good place to start would be maybe the transition from Thursday into Sunday, Ross. Because Thursday was absolutely honking. I'm sure it's all fair to say. Maybe an unfair situation that the manager found himself in a couple of days in, and then having to, face that game, a tricky away tie, a team that's going well in their own division, no having a lot of time to work with them. And then, but as bad as that was, I think where he deserves credit is the transition for how bad that was on Thursday to turning that around on Sunday. Would you go along with that?
Definitely. Thursday was expected for me. 2 days on the training field, one of which he done media duties most of the day, so it wasn't much to be expected. And as I said last week, mate, see, for me, Europe this year is actually a bit of an annoyance. I would rather we were fully concentrated on what's going on in the league. You're seeing run about the league, obviously, at the moment. Hearts are flying high. But as I said last week as well, you're now within 5 points of the team that I would say are still favourites to go and win the league, based on their historical over the last 10 years, how many times they've went and sealed the deal. So we're making up ground on them every week, Davie, and to me that can only get better. And in the words of Danny Rohl, win the next game, get a consecutive stream of games, and then have a look at it in 10 games' time. And if you've won 10 out of 10, the gap will definitely be smaller towards second and third place in the league.
See on Sunday, Ross, the switch in formation. Do you think that's something that benefits this squad? I look back to when Barry Ferguson came in towards the tail end of last season, and I think our best performances in terms of away at Parkhead and against Fenerbahce in the two legs there, we settled on this formation of sort of 3-5-2, but variations on it in terms of player placement. We resorted to it at the weekend, albeit our wing backs were more like wingers in the sense that they weren't really doing much, defensive work, but it was all about, getting repetitive crosses in, putting pressure in the opposition. Do you think the manager has stumbled on a formation that might be kind to us given the playing squad that we have?
Mate, I think if you are a manager of Rangers in the games, 3-5-2 is one of the funny formations, Davie, in it, where it can be, is it 3-5-2 or is it 5-3-2? And I think if in most games we set up, we should be playing it as a 3. Your 3 centre backs, of which the 2 either side being able to play a bit really helped as well, with Tav and Cornelius. And then the likes of the weekend, you're playing against a Kilmarnock team who have got 2 boys up front. They're just sitting on your 3 centre halves, and it allows you to go and play as wingers and pen their wing backs back in, and it allows you to go and be really progressive. What I do like about that is in the tough moments, and Danny Rohl spoke about this tonight, you've got players that are comfortable playing both sides of that at wing back. which means then you can drop into a 5 when times are tough. So that's really good to be able to see. Davie Seaworld, you've got a comment up there, Farley. He's a really, really good pal of mine. He's in the hospital there now, so he's tuning in from the Queen Elizabeth. So a big, massive shout out to him, and I hope he's feeling a lot better.
No, absolutely. Speedy recovery, Ali, and we're delighted to have your company. But see, when I look at it, Ross, I'm looking at the defensive lineup that we've got at the minute in terms of the bodies that we have in. We spoke about last week that we weren't really sure what Danny Rohl was going to do. You look at G-Guy's really underperformed this season. Tav, we're not really sure if he can play it right back, whether he's got the legs. We saw in Norway last week that the gaps between him and Suter when he does play fullback are too much and often cost us. So I look at a guy like Cornelius, who's almost that hybrid type player, can play left back, left centre half, is comfortable step moot. Does the switch to the 3 allow him to be more aggressive and then allow Rangers to move the ball quicker? And ultimately, is that what we're looking for? Because we've spent half the season so far knocking the ball between both centre halves and the goalkeeper, but now we just want to get it forward quicker. We played with 2 strikers at the weekend for the first time in God knows how many years for the start. Is this maybe the turning of the screw here, Ross, with this almost adaptability in Danny Rohl's methodology going forward?
I don't think he's going to be well, Davie. I think that's the difference as well. I think that we've seen that Suter wasn't comfortable on the left-hand side. We've seen him trying his best to play out and start attacks. And to be honest, it's not really happened for him. I definitely say I think he's got last season syndrome, whereby every player in the last season of their contract takes a dip in form. And I think you can see that with Soapy. What Tavernier on the other side of Cornelius as well gives you somebody who is confident on the ball and stepping forward with a good range of passing. So is 3-5-2 something that I'd like to see us go with again? Definitely. And see the likes of this week going away to Kilmarnock, who are going to do the same, who are going away to Kilmarnock, who played 2 big men up front. You're going to now go and play Hibs, who are going to just try and knock the ball long, and Boyle's going to look to exploit space in behind with a big boy Bowie sitting off him, one in flick-ons. So if you've got 3 solid centre-halves again, that allows you then to go and ping back their 2 wing-backs who are decent as well. And then that then takes you into the Old Firm game on Sunday. So I would say over the course of this week, and as part of Danny Rohl trying to find his feet and grind results, then it probably isn't a bad thing to go with a 3-5-2. And again, it gives you that flexibility if you're going through that wee tough 10 minutes where we tend to concede. The 2 wing-backs, 1 or 2 of them can just recede, or they can take shots each going up and down the park, which gives you a solid 4. But Suter's then in the gap that keeps getting exploited because he's just naturally playing there as a centre-half of a back 3. So I don't know that it's an option we need to use against Falkirk at home. I don't know. Well, judging by this season, we probably do. But I don't know if it's something that we need to do against like your Falkirks and your Livingstons at home, whereby you've got 3 centre-halves sitting on 1 big striker. But definitely, I think it's got its place. And it's actually weird that we spoke about this when Russell Martin was here. Your man Thelwell, although he's not very good at the scouting, I believe he did write a book called The Continental or the European 3-5-2. So maybe it's something that he might actually be able to find his players that can fit into that formation as well, Davey. I don't know what your thoughts on it are, but for me, the 3-5-2 doesn't always have to be negative. If you've got 1 centre-half, it's just going to sit and do the ugly stuff, and the other 2 can go forward and get a bit more involved.
I think, obviously, as any formation does, it has its pros and cons depending on the personnel that you're up against. And I look at it, and there is players in our squad, for instance, he's just returned to training today, which is, in the pictures, Dujon Sterling. And I think if that boy could stay fit you could see him as an aggressive type on the right-hand side of a back three, you know, being able to track recovery pace, but be aggressive in the tackle. If teams are going down the side, then he wouldn't mind stepping out for the three and attacking whoever the winger is with the ball. You know, so there's elements of your squad that I think that suit it. And again, there's elements of the squad that don't. But what I think it does have in terms of benefits, teams that play one up, there's no need for us to have a back four. You know what I mean? No. We have an abundance of attacking players, an abundance of attacking talent that we need to ultimately get more of. So what I liked about Danny Rohl's switch at the weekend by playing sort of Magoma wide on the right, the left-hand side and Gassam on the right. And I'll come back to this point, Ross, but Magoma was very comfortable higher up the pitch. But the question I want to put to you on this is, if Magoma is comfortable playing in that side of the pitch and looks half decent with the balls he's putting in, is that no negating what we perceive to be our best attacking talent by switching them to the other side? How do you feel about that? Are you no more comfortable with Gassama being on the left-hand side?
I definitely think you get more out Gassama on the left cutting in. I think if you've got him on the right, he's just looking to hit the byline, so he becomes one-dimensional. Whereas I feel as if when he's on the left, he terrorises people with that cut in and shot. He's done it countless times since he's been here already. 3 or 4, he's cut in for the left and hit the shot back across the goalie. He's near post. I think with him having that ability to cut inside, it opens the wing up if he decides to go down the outside. The issue comes, and it's very much again, Davie, is we've created a squad now where everybody wants to play off the left. We've not got many who want to play off the right. When you look at even the unfit ones, even like your Matondo, you've got Magoma wants to be up on the left. You've got Gassama wants to be up on the left. You've got Mikey Moore wants to play on the left. So Ant-Man's really the only one that wants to play on the right, and he's not been great since his first game. But I think what we can say, Davie, is if there's anybody who knows how to bring out the best in Gassama, it's Danny Rohl. That's why he ended up here. That's why Chef Wed fans believe he's a £20 million player that we've got for a fraction of that. So I suppose it's one of the ones where the gaffer's trying to shuffle the pack and find out what can work for him. And as long as we keep grinding out wins, mate, if Gassama's maybe not contributing with goals, but it's contributing in other ways to be able to move people about and create space and create a bit more chaos that allows us to get 2 strikers on the field at any time, then it might just be one of these sacrifices that we need to make.
Pros and cons in this squad, Ross, in terms of balance, but is there pros and cons in terms of the manager and his adaptability? As I say, it went from being horrendous on Thursday to being good in spells, and he didn't get overly carried away by Sunday's performance. His feet were firmly on the ground. But I look at the performance on Sunday. We were really good in spells in the second half. We'll come to the cons because there's one con I want to talk to you about and get your expertise on in particular. But for you, what do you think were the positives in terms of the quick turnaround for Thursday and being so bad to how it was and being ultimately a comfortable 3-1 victory at home to Kilmarnock on Sunday? What were the positives out it for you?
The positives are, again, you've made up points in the league race. The positives were we didn't look as if every time the other team broke forward they were going to score. If it's not for Jack Butland having a brain fart, then you're keeping a clean sheet. But Davie, the thing is,
you've touched on it. Before we go further in depth on that, right? You've brought it up, and I wanted to talk about it, mate. I said on the pod last week that I think Jack Butland is the type of goalkeeper that likes to be constantly under pressure because he made his name mainly playing for Birmingham and when he went to Stoke. and he was quoted with England because he played for teams that were sort of expected to fight relegation, and he made his name as a shot stopper because he was constantly under pressure. When Jack Butland has to have that mentality, make that one save a game, and keep his concentration levels when it matters, and concede unnecessarily, I start to question Jack Butland, and I think the corner, which was a nothing corner, like a centre of goal, it went to nobody. And he just comes for it, mate, and completely gets it wrong. What is that? Is obviously Great Wall of Canada saying it's concentration. Is it concentration, Ross? Is it more than that? Has he had too many mistakes now for it to be concentration? Is it mentality? And I get he makes a great save in the second half to redeem himself. But the point is, Jack Butland over the last 2 years now has got a run maybe upwards of 10 to 15 mistakes that you could name and rhyme off. And that's sort of unbecoming of what I perceive to be a traditional Rangers goalkeeper. Do you go along with that?
Jack Butland is to goalkeeping what John Souttar is to defending. See if you're under siege and he can just go and no sticky seed on things. He did obviously sticky seed on Proper last year, nearly murdered them. But as you say, mate, the galling thing about the weekend is he has only got one save to make, and he makes it, and it's an absolute belter in the second half, which keeps it 2-1.
Yeah, it is.
The corner isn't even a save to make. For somebody of his size and stature, I just think he's weak in those moments, and we've seen it. Strikers should be scared to go near him at a corner because they know they're going to get a knee in the back, or he's going to go right through them. And then you look at obviously 2 games in a row last season with Motherwell and Manchester United where he flapped and punched the ball in his own net and got away with one of them. I don't know where I stand with Butland. He's definitely a good goalie. He's arguably been our player of the season, but it's more to do with how bad the rest of them have been, which has allowed him the opportunity to shine the way he has. But I still think... Do
you think... Because I think you've made a great point there. You know how last week when he came out and he attacked the rest of the squad, right, in terms of their mentality... Do you think he's forced himself to come for that, to set the example, to say that, I'm going to take command of this situation, but he's misjudged it. And then after the back, him making the comments about the rest of the team and questioning their mentality, does it not make him look a wee bit like, aye, all right, Jack, what was that all about last week? You're having a go at us, and there you've just threw one in.
Well, definitely. Last week when he was I don't know what goes on in their heads half the time or whatever. I'm paraphrasing, but I just think to myself, you had a full season of that last season, Biggie, what's going on? I find it hard to be too down on him this season because he has probably been our best player, right? But the likes of that at the weekend, isn't he? I think... in a team that's got control of the ball, nowadays you need your goalkeeper, as I've said before, to be playing a part in that. And for me, his starting position is a bigger worry, and the fact that every time a team gets a corner, he looks shaky. Because as you say, you're maybe playing a game where you've got 74% possession, which I'm sure the half-time stat was. They had one shot off target, but they've had a corner, and he's came, and that leads to a goal. If you're having that much control and possession in games, opportunities that the opposition are going to get against you is going to be set pieces. And if you've got a 6'5" goalie that when he jumps ends up 5'6", then you've got issues. But as I say, he then makes a stunning save at 2-1, which he probably doesn't save if he's not 6'5", by the way, because he's at full extension. Don't know, Davie. I think it'll be interesting because obviously we were linked with the boy from Sheffield Wednesday when Russell Martin was here. Whether maybe Danny Rohl dips his toe into that market or not, considering the kind of implications of where they are at the moment. I think that'll be interesting.
Do you think he comes for it, Ross, because there's a lack of a centre-half there that attacks everything. So he feels that the trust isn't quite there between him and his back two or back three, depending on what they play. So he's the one maybe trying to take the pressure off them, because there is that sort of lackey, as we've spoken, leadership throughout the squad. And even Thelwell and Stewart and Kavanagh alluded to that when they done their press conference last week, that is something that we'll look to attack in January. And maybe that's the imbalance that is there in our team. So we are an easy target at set pieces, and we'll just need to sort of piss with the cup we've got the new until January.
I don't think you can make that excuse, mate. He's every goal he's done it. You come for a cross and you totally miss time your jump, or you're that busy thinking about what you're doing to get there, or the ball's coming into your hands and you're already thinking where you're going to throw it, and you just all it takes is a wee split second, and before you know it, the ball's by you. That can happen, but as you say, it's unfortunate when you've had a dig at your teammates and you've not been squeaky clean over the last calendar year. The last 6 months of last season, it was horrendous. What I hope, Davie, is I always worry about Jack Butland's mentality, that when he makes a mistake, he goes on a run of them. He's done it throughout his career. It's why, as you say, he's lurched about the kind of clubs and ended up fourth choice, picking up the cones at training for Man United, is that he doesn't seem to recover well. So my only hope is that with the big save at 2-1, that it doesn't linger on. It's been nipped in the bud, and hopefully, because we'll need him tomorrow night, that's for sure. Need him to be. But how much more confident would you be tomorrow night when they're playing balls over the top if Jack Butland was a goalie who plays 12, 18 yards out, that can come out and beat strikers to the ball? I think that's something that we miss. And I think it's something that we have missed the full time he's been in.
Certainly miss McGregor doing it in games, because he used to take the player out when he done that, didn't he? Kick them in the edge of the box and walk off with a red card, mate. But no, I think you make a fair point on that. And obviously, I'm not one to dwell on the negatives too long, because, as you say, and you quite rightly say, Ross, he probably has been our best player this season. But if you look at elements in our squad, what I liked about the manager, at half time, he obviously didn't think it was ending well, so he looked to quickly change it. And before we go on and speak about the positives, I just want to talk on one more negative, and that is Miovski's performance. Where do you stand with him, the new Ross? Because we've spoke about it. We thought he'd be the type of player that would suit a ball over the top or be a penalty box striker. When you're playing with two high wingers and balls are coming in all the time, what I think's frustrated me most about Miovski is that when we have penetrated the opposition's penalty box in and around it, he seems to be out of position, no anticipating where the ball's going to go. Is that a case of being off the pace? He's not quite up to match fitness because he was kind of out of favour at Girona before we bought him? Or is it maybe a lack of interest? Or is the harmony not quite there in terms of the front three? We not got the balance quite right. What do you put Miovski's lack of form down to at the moment?
One, and Great Wall of Canada's said it there, mate. I think we spoke about it last week. Me and you certainly did off camera. We've got 3 strikers that we've spent 20 million quid on, and none of them's had a successful stream of games over the last 2 seasons. Chermiti played 4 games. Miovski, what did he play last season? 10 games or something for Girona. He never played a lot.
Aye, but
and then you've got Danilo, who also over the last 2 years has been stop-start. So none of them, I don't think, have had that consecutive amount of games over a 3 or a 6 month period where they've maybe bagged 12 goals and they're high flying. So I think it's one of the ones that we're going to need to put up with now, Davie. I did say on here, on Not Another Rangers podcast, and as I said back when I was on the Rabble, when we were first linked to him 3 years ago when he was leaving Aberdeen, I don't think he's a Rangers striker. I don't think he is the type of guy who is going to create chances for himself and who links the play and who who battles. I think he is what he is. I think when he played with Aberdeen, 90% of his goals are balls getting clipped to the tap, him running on, and I don't think he's match fit. So I think he looks sluggish. He's a bit half yard slow, and I hope that that's just through match sharpness, Davie. I hope that he's only 28, 29. It's not as if he's old and he's lost a yard of pace or anything. But for me, the worry is for the outlay. Everybody thought we were getting a bargain at $3.5 million. As I say, I never seen it, but for the outlay, I would have wanted somebody who's been in the league before and has experience to be starting to strike up a chord a wee bit, and I just don't see it. Even I get what we're saying about match fitness and stuff, but I thought even at the offside goal, it's just lazy, innit? It's lazy not to be getting out to get back with the play, and obviously nobody expects the goalkeeper to bounce it off a Cornelius and into him. But for me, we're just not switched on yet, and that comes down to probably match sharpness as well. I think he'll be absolutely honoured to be here, Davie. To be honest, I don't think it was my good pal Andy letting me know. I think he'll be very happy to be here, and he's definitely took a step up from where he was. So I don't think it's going to be that he doesn't like it here or he's got an attitude problem. I think it's just a culmination of lots of different things. And I would hope that a couple of goals would start a wee chain where he can get some games and some goals under his belt and get back to that form that's seen him getting his moves.
So obviously the manager done something that I sort of liken to the Advocate era. At half time, he just wasn't having what was in front of him, and he changed it, and he made the right changes. And I think we've seen the best 45 minutes of Mikey Moore in a Rangers shirt so far. He was really positive. But seeing the second half, Ross, we were comfortable and we were very rarely threatened, other than, as you said, the Butland save. But there's one player I want to talk about in particular, and that is Yusuf Chermite. I don't mind the bit of giving it back to the fans that he gave it, because ultimately, you know, you've got to take it if you're giving it out, and vice versa. So I think too much has been made of that in social media. We live in a soft society these days. You know, I grew up in school playgrounds where you were called a wanker at 7-year-old. You just had to live with it. You know what I mean? So, the society has got soft. But I think you said last week something that you thought there was a player in there, and I just want to develop that argument a wee bit. What is it about Yusuf Chermite for you, Ross, that you think he deserves a run in the team? What's the attributes that you think are there in terms of leading the line that can make us climb the table, that can make us, win on Wednesday, win on Sunday? Because that's what we need. We need a Rangers number 9 that's going to do it every week, that's going to be like Morelos was for us, be that sort of linchpin for us that teams fear. And for far too often in the last 4 or 5 years, teams aren't fearing us, and we just need to strike a wee bit of fear into teams again. Do you think this boy's got the attributes to do it?
So I don't know is the honest answer. I don't think anybody does, because we've not seen enough of him. What I was getting at last week, Davie, and he kind of showed it, I think. There was one right after his goal where the ball drops and he's got a centre half right behind him. He just takes it on the chest and laid it into Raskin. And it's just that classy ability to take it down. And that's what I think I've seen for him, that he's got a deft touch in the way he moves and shapes his body. I just think he looks as if he's got a real it's hard to describe. I wish I was, as you can see tonight, I'm stealing Blair Malloy's I'm stealing his look. I wish I was as succinct a speaker as him, but he's just got a deft touch, mate. I just think you can tell somebody who is a cultured football player, and I think he looks like it. And that's more first than I've seen from Miovski in the last few weeks, mate. That being able to take it in and lay it off and then move again. Even his goal, mate, he's not scored a goal for X amount of time. the ball breaks across to him. How many players in our team actually take that shot? Don't get me wrong, the goalie's a haddy, right? But how many players in our team actually take that shot? And you can say he smashed it down the middle all you want, right? He's cut across the ball and the ball's moved and it's left the goalie, right? And as a goalkeeping mistake, most goalies 9 times out of 10 save it. But he's took the shot on, and mate, see the celebration. Mate, honestly, like you'd have thought that he'd went right up to every fan in the place and went like, "I am talking to you." Like players just celebrate like that. Was he aiming it at the Rangers fans? Or is that just like I keep talking? I don't get it, mate. As you say, people nowadays are. It's as if everybody just wants to get offended. But he's another one, mate, I would say, who started off the same as like in the same vein as Russell Martin. We've spent a lot of money on him. Folk didn't want him brought in. He's a farewell signing, and folk are, even when he scores, folk still want to jump on his back for something. And to me, I don't get it, mate. I don't get behind him. He scored a goal. As somebody in the comments says there, I think it was Canada, that good. See if he's got to give a bit back. That just shows he's got confidence. I don't mind it at all, honestly.
What type of player do you think he is, Ross? Because I looked at him on Thursday and I wasn't sure. I don't think he's a great runner off the ball. Do you know what I mean? In terms of harrying teams doing it and pressing the opposition. I think he maybe looks a better player running onto things, you know, taking the ball for a spin, challenging for second balls. But if he's the one that's to put the opposition under, I just don't think that's game. I said on Twitter on Thursday, it looked like he was running like he had piles. But then you see him when he was running with the ball, you know, he looked a totally different player. He looked half a yard faster running with the ball than he did looking running off it. So how do we then address that? Because I think if you accept that he's going to do nothing off the ball for you, then what do you do? Do you go back to that old argument where see your guys that are wide? Do you bring them in as the inverted tens when you're off the ball so that you're almost sitting there as a free when the opposition's got the ball around the edge of the box and they're passing it out for the goalkeeper and you're pressing as a unit? Or, you know, what would you do if you were the manager there? Because I think if he has got attributes, right, that are positive, we need to play his strengths. And I don't think asking him to harry the opposition is in his locker. Do you agree with that?
Mate, I thought that you were Joshua Barry out for his Halloween dressed up as Davie there for that tactical analysis. That was an analysis piece. I'm waiting on the board coming out. Mate, I think he's one of the players who you can knock the ball up to and he'll hold it in and players can run off him. It's interesting because I think that you're looking for your 10 to be getting into that area behind them, potentially linking. And also, if you've got Gassama on the left and he's coming inside, as you say, inverted 10, when they've got the ball, he's going to need to work on. If Danny Rohl wants everybody pressing, then that's something that you're probably going to need to drum into him. But I think you're going to need to drum that into a lot of players, Davie. I don't think that that's something that's exclusive to him. He's got that kind of big, like, Nicholas Anelka type mannerisms, as if everything's just a wee Sunday stroll and
casual.
I think he'll be good, mate. I've just got a feeling that there's more to come for the boy, to be honest.
Andrew there talking about Cammy Fraser. You wouldn't know by looking at the boy that he's old enough to remember Cammy Fraser. Do you know what I mean? He's probably the youngest looking man on Twitter as Andrew. He's like Benjamin Button. But see, to be honest with you, Ross, I look at the manager's press conference today and he's talking about the shape of the team, the philosophy of the team. He says he likes to adopt this hybrid philosophy. We'll look at the opposition, a bit similar to the way Gio did, but where I think Gio fell down is he perhaps showed too much respect to the opposition and his game plan was nailed on that. Is this a positive that the manager's going to treat every game as a single game? He's not going to get too far ahead of himself. He's going to look at what Hibs offer and line us up, you know, to think what we can get the best out of, because I think he's quietly going about his business, right? He wasn't the wanted man or whatever, but how he's conducted himself in conferences, and don't get me wrong, Thursday wasn't great, but I think we'll give him a pass on Thursday. But you look at Sunday, you look at how he spoke the day, he's saying that the mood in the camp's beginning to improve. Is there scope to have optimism at this point with Danny Rohl?
Well, if you don't have optimism, what do you have, Davie? I think you've got to. For me, I've got the opinion that he's trying a bit too hard now. He's given off a wee bit pick-me energy for me at the moment, with the over-clamouring and overselling himself. But as you say, he's come in here as the fans' third choice at best, if you be honest. I think that he's right in what he's saying. I don't think Danny Rohl would have went and got beat 6 at Bruges once you go down to 10 men. The game's done. I think he would have changed it tactically. I think when he goes to play against, as we spoke about earlier, Livingston and Falkirk at home, I think he'll set up differently than he will going to Hibs away, the Mora, or Parkhead away. And I think that you've got to have that flexibility in your tactics, because it's all right saying, no, we'll play our game and let them worry about us. But every team gives you a different opportunity as a gaffer to utilise your squad and the toolkit that you've got better than other teams. So Russell Martin fell on his sword with us until a couple of games before he got bagged. Then he tried to change it and clamour on to what he had. But you've got philosophy managers who will play the same shape, the same tactics, same formation, week in, week out. And Martin done it at Southampton to his detriment. He got promoted up through the Championship. I always watch these pods back, and I say he won the Championship. What I meant is he won the playoff final. But he got Southampton promoted for the Championship and then tried to play the same way in the Premier League against teams with much bigger budgets. And I think that a good manager in this day and age will be able to have the philosophy, the high pressing, high possession, getting shots away, shooting, as you say, Adam Thornton, with diagonal forward passing and all that spiel that I don't talk. It's a lingo I don't talk, Davie. But all these wee words, gen pressing and tiki-taka and all that stuff, you can have that philosophy, but it doesn't mean you're ready to play in the same way every game. So I don't know for what you think about Danny Rohl and his initial first week in the role.
I think Andrew makes a great point, the one that was on just before Mr. Unmutual, which was, it was great to see a Rangers manager animated on the touchline. And that's where I think that Russell Martin lost the fans, because, you know, he sat there like that, staring at the iPad every 2 minutes and, you know, negative body language. Whereas we saw a Rangers manager clap him up and doing it. And see that bit of animation or whatever, players will buy into that, mate. You know, it's a motivational tool, and it might just be simplistic things, but it's a positive, you know, step in the right direction. I think, you know, Mr. Unmutual's right as well in terms of pragmatism. That's where I go back to the point I was making there about he looks at the opposition, assesses what I've got, look at the players that he has available, and he'll work out a game plan. It's not necessarily negative, and perhaps the way Gio did, is in no one to lose a goal. I think this manager wants to win games of football. Ultimately, he'll have goals himself, whether that's going back to the Bundesliga, getting a job in the Premier League. The only way he's going to be able to achieve that is if he becomes a winner here. And I think we're at a club where he's got the opportunity to do that. Yeah, ultimately, we might not have done the transfer business to date that will get him there, but he can make steps himself, I think, to make the players that are there better. And I think that's the markings of a good coach. What I want to touch on with you, Ross, is something that he spoke about in his press conference today in terms of the coach point. The media are having you believe it's a straight-out dogfight between Neil McCann and Steve Davis to be that sort of Scottish-based Rangers coach. Do you think both of them are the right fit, if it is they two?
as I say, it depends what he wants out of that coach, innit? Is he wanting somebody who's been there, done it, won things? They both tick their boxes. They've Although Steve Davis has not been a manager in his own right, he's a coach with the Northern Ireland international team. We'll get it right this week. Obviously, Neil McCann's had a bash at the management himself, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the spec is, what he's looking for that role. But the two of them, if you're looking for somebody who's been there, done it, bought the t-shirt and can tell you about Rangers and what made Rangers side successful, then both of them check the boxes for me. I would say I would prefer Davis. I think I would prefer Davis just based on the fact McCann already had a kind of back team role last year when Ferguson came in and never really made much of a difference. But mate, you look at was it Clement that brought in Alex Ray, and he was essentially just stood in the dugout chewing gum and spitting. That was his full role.
Would you trust Alex Ray to do any more? But don't get me wrong, maybe I'm doing him a disservice because he's joined up with Mark Wilson at Partick Thistle this season. I think they're sitting second in the championship comfortably. So I don't know, mate. You make a fair point, but ultimately, as long as Rangers are winning, that's all anybody's going to care about. But let's look at the opposition. We're playing Hibs, who are above us in the table, mate. They do have attributes in their team, as you alluded to earlier on. They've got pace up front. Obviously, they'll use Bowie as the focal point, but whether it be Martin Boyle or Ellie Youhan, they've got pace, to latch on to setting balls and stretch the opposition. And that is our Achilles heel. So, one, do you see them causing us problems? And two, have we got enough firepower to cause them problems? Is this as tough a fixture as we could get away from home right now?
Well, you've already beat them this season, so that's got to be a plus point even under the darkest days in the season so far. We managed to beat them. Mate, I think Hibs could be a good opponent for us now, because they're going to come and play expansive football. They're going to come and try and get at us. So you're hoping that Danny Rohl will have a plan to counter that and to make us better. And this is what I'm talking about with the free. See, if we go with the free at the back, I would just be saying to John Souttar, see Bowie, every time he moves, you're right behind him. See, if Bowie wins a header, you're getting fined this week. Just go and win the ball. They're going to use him as a man, and they're going to play for flick-ons. So don't let him win a ball. That would be my words to John Souttar pre-match. Don't let the boy Bowie get near it, because he's the one that opens up the space and also pulls defenders about in order to make space for Boyle, and that's what they're looking for. The delivery for the boy Cadden is something that if we sit back and allow him to get forward, but in the 3-5-2, if we play that, I would hope our wing-backs would be pinning him back rather than us sitting off and letting him come at us.
So, obviously, there's a lot of chat in the team, a lot of discussion in the chat about the team, rather, and I'm looking at it, and I do think that Connor Barron has made a few fleeting appearances this season. Has he done enough for you, Ross, to be considered a starter? And if we look at how we possibly line up and we're expecting us to be sort of dogged off the ball, is he a better fit in beside Raskin, or rather than Raskin and Diomande from the weekend against Hibs? Where do you stand on that?
Mate, I love Connor Barron. I love him. I think he is so underrated in what he does. We talk a lot about the Kevin Thompson, the Ryan Jack role. I think Barron in that role, just go, win the ball and give it to somebody better than you. Covers, got it right back, covers it left back, reads the game really well. And what's interesting, Davie, and I think this going back to our boy John Suter as well, is why is the discussion, is it Barron next to Raskin? Why is it no Barron instead of Raskin? Because for me, since he came back into the team, ironically, was it Hibs was the only game Raskin looked really good, and then he's been peak all season. He's also, it looks to me as if he's checked out, to be honest. Raskin, he's not been good, in my opinion. No dominating games at all. So Connor Barron, for me, is the second best player in the league for that dogged Ryan. I call it the Ryan Jack rule. You're essentially just sitting in the six, but swinging from side to side and putting out fires where folk get stuck out. And the only one better in the league for me at it is Cammy Devlin, who's another one. For 2 years I've been telling everybody, Cammy Devlin's a nailed on starter for Rangers. The boy at Hearts play the Ryan Jack role better than Ryan Jack, and it's only this season now Hearts are getting wins that folk are actually sitting up and taking notice of that wee guy. So for 2 years I've been beating that drum, because he was out of contract 2 years ago and signed an extension, and he's now out of contract at the end of this season. And honestly, he'll be another one that if we don't, we should be all over come Christmas try to get him on a pre-contract.
So do you think then that he will stick with the same formation for the weekend, Ross? And see if he does, what is your best 11 in that formation to play on Wednesday night? So you go on 3-5-2 against Hibs, and what you go on with? So obviously, I'm assuming Butland will be in goals. You go on with the same back three, Tav, Suter, and Cornelius?
Yep.
Right. So midfield to front, talk me through it and why.
Magoma, left wing back. Max Aarons, right wing back.
Why? Right? Do you think that we're going to be under pressure defensively, mate? Why does Max Aarons deserve a chance on Wednesday night?
Because I'm putting Gassama further forward, so there's no else to play right wing back. We're not putting Gassama.
I like it, mate. I like
it. So that's your three. Then you've got Barron sitting at the 6. I'm not the biggest fan of Diamande, but I don't feel as if he deserves to be dropped. So I'm going Diamande, and I'm going Lyle Cameron, and I'm going Chermiti right up top, and I'm going Gassama in the half space, just off him.
Right, because there was talk on social media.
Tell me that's 11 people, because I was making that up.
I think it is. You've got your back three, your 2 wing backs, your 3 in the middle, and your 2 up top, mate. So that it was 11, mate. But because I don't know where I stand on it, mate. Because again, you spoke about this with Chermiti. You said the casual impression, right? I think that's what Asgard gives me, and I don't think that you can go to Easter Road and have too many players that are casual. I think you need workers. I think you need folk that are going to do the work off the ball as much as they're going to do on it. And I think Asgard gives me that sort of impression that he's a luxury player, wanting the ball all the time when things are going well, but maybe hides when you're up against it. And I wouldn't personally start him on Wednesday. No, mate, but this is why you said Lyle. No, you said Lyle Cameron, and this is what I'm saying. Is that the reason that you're starting Lyle Cameron? Because of the above?
I'm starting Lyle Cameron because I think he's got a bit about him, mate. And I think he deserves a run in the team. The first 3 or 4 games of the season, I thought he was really good. And he's a goal threat as well for that position. Asgard, I'm a big believer that a Scottish core of players in your team know what these kind of games mean. So looking at that, although he's no Scottish, you've got Tavernier, Suter, know what it means, been here long enough. Butland, you've then got your Cameron and Barron. That, and then obviously as you go forward, we've not got a Scottish striker. We should have signed Shankland. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it, but we would have had that core right up and through. But no, mate, I think the boy Cameron deserves a shot, mate. It reminds me, as I said before he signed, the Scotty Arfield can just kind of show up in between 18 and 12 and score goals. So I think that it could be a game that's made for that kind of late run into the box.
But I look at Hibs midfield, Ross, right? And I think that's maybe arguably the strongest part of their team. I think the boy McGrath, since he's made the move for Aberdeen and recovered from his injury, he looks really settled in that team. I look at our midfield, and if it was the three that you said, Barron, Diamande and Cameron, is that lacking physicality for you, or do you think there's enough energy in there that gets the opposition worrying rather than we're worrying about what they're doing?
Yeah, I think Diamande, I'm always at his neck, isn't I? Because I think in Old Firm games, that's why he does so well, because he in the big games he seems to just get up for it in Europe. I think when you've got Barron's hardly scared to tackle, is he? And then you've got the boy Cameron, who, although he's slight, is solid and has got a good return in Scottish football. So I think I would rather have our midfield free than their midfield free if you're basing it on talent alone. But as we all know, hard work beats talent. If talent doesn't work hard, Davie, put that in your wee black book. All right, that's a life.
I will do, mate. I'll write that one down. I'll bring it back to you before the end of the season, mate. So obviously, Ross, without looking too far ahead, but we only do one pod a week here. It's a big week for us. It is an Old Firm Cup semi-final on Sunday. The opposition have changed their manager in the last 24 hours, and it is the ghost from Misery Past, if you like, because I'm pretty sure that his last game for them, was it no a Scott McDonald double at Firth Park was his last day as Celtic manager. So hopefully that hoodoo continues. I think we've got a pretty good record against them at Hampden, if the memory books serve me right. But whether that matters or no, does it change anything for you? His preferred formation was always 3-5-2. Could it be a case that it's going to be man for man at the weekend? And does it add a bit of spice to the fixture, mate? Because a lot of people were saying that the last fixture was the most boring one between the two teams in many a year. But does this bring a bit of the element of the unknown with our manager and their interim going into Sunday?
Mate, again, not got a Scooby. What I do know is they are panicking. Yeah, they're in disarray, mate. It's as if like I thought we were going to be the worst run club in Scotland this season, and they've just went hod my holy water, man. This is brutal. So mate, yeah, I think off the field, as we've seen when things are no right off the field, it finds its way on the field. And I just hope that we've got the confidence and the bit about us to be able to go and take advantage of that. Because for so many years, when things have been gone bad for us, they've took every advantage going. And if we can beat the 11 they put on the park, Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney, and the Celtic fans' tribute five-a-side team that they've got, then the officiating, that you could have picked a Celtic supporters five-a-side club.
Listen, you make an interesting point, because see on this, let's blow this out the water. No enough people draw attention to this, and I know that was a flippant comment for you, Ross, but let's analyse it properly, because ultimately there's no enough Rangers names or Rangers supporting names in the media that'll put their head above the parapet. Yeah, Andy Halliday's a great guy, but he plays for Motherwell, so you can't say too much because, you know, he's in danger of getting pulled up for the SFA if he says anything. Maybe Boydie will come out and throw a grenade in the paper this week, but we go back a year or just less than a year to the League Cup final. Arguably, considering VAR is, in force, that is the worst decision in modern times that you'll ever see in a football game. A clear foul. You can hear the VAR discuss it in the audio. There's this argument that if it's on the line, it's a penalty. It's not even on the line. It's inside the box and then continues on the line and then goes outside the box. So how they can't look back at that and decide that that is a penalty is beyond me. But then to have the guy that's involved in that incident brought back into the semi-final, which is a powder keg, a game that's got the same sort of, momentum rolling on it in terms of they're a bit of a bin fire. We've been a bin fire this season. This game could push either team on. We're both looking for it to give us the shot in the arm that we need for the rest of the season. To put him back in, is that a misjudgment for Willie Collum? And do you understand it at all?
Well, I've got an exclusive for you, Davie. The only reason that they boys are actually on it is because Rod Stewart and Paul McStay weren't available for the day. They were asked. They couldn't make it. Mate, it's a bit of a shambles in it. It's a bit of a... I was listening a bit to the Rangers review when I was driving along the road there. I'm in new but old surroundings, Davie. It's my wee girl's Halloween the night, so I'm actually in my ma's in the room that I grew up in. It's been decorated a bit different now, but I was listening to the Rangers review on my way along the road, and they were talking about that. It's back to, for me, the standard of officiating in this country is just gash, mate. I don't think any of them are actively cheats, but I do think that some of them value their house windies and their house insurance premiums more than the fairness of the game. As you say, Frank Connor last year was banky rights when he's saying it's more out than in. Well, if it's in at all, it's a penalty, mate. That's the rules of the game. And I think, as you say, Willie Collum putting that lineup together will be preying on Sunday that there's nothing comes out of that's even a whisker on the cusp of being a dodgy decision, because Rangers have obviously come out and told the fan groups at the roundtable discussion last week. Stevie Clifford, I'd listened to him speaking about it, and Rangers are compiling a dossier and they're in cahoots with, no cahoots, that sounds as if we're working with them, but we're in the ear about these decisions and stuff that's went against Rangers historically and over the last few years. So for me, we've not went public with that, but I just hope that that's enough, even doing it in private, that all you want is to come on here next Tuesday, Davie, and no be talking about how a refereeing decision has cost you another trophy. Probably cost Phil Clemonte's job, that decision, when you think about it. If he finishes up last season and there's a trophy in the cabinet, then maybe things are seen a bit differently. But you could also argue, Ross, if you win that trophy, it's then the momentum that carries you on. Do you know what I mean? So this is a really important trophy, Davie. I think that if you've got a new team, so we are a new team, just being put together, new manager, I think getting the silver shiny things and lifting them above your head sets the standard, and it gets a wee bit of, just gets people a taste for it. So as I say, hopefully next Tuesday we won't be here next Tuesday because I'll be in Chez Paris with the girls, but next week when we get together, we're not talking about VAR controversy, we're talking about Rangers winning a game, or we're caning Rangers for no turning up, because if we turn up, then we'll beat them, by the way.
No, absolutely. And just a wee note to everybody there on the back of what Ross said. Ross is going on his holidays next week. So whilst we aim to do this every Tuesday, next week I think we'll go on the Thursday. So we'll let the dust settle. We'll let everybody have their say. So next week for the 1 week only, if you want to join us on the Thursday, then please do so, and we'll sort of analyse where we are as a whole, and hopefully we'll have plenty to talk about. But mate, we'll just sort of round up with the week ahead. How do you see it going? Do you see positive signs there on the back of Sunday? Are you expecting 2 wins? Do you think we've got enough quality in our squad to get the 2 wins? And more importantly, because we have spoke about Wednesday in depth, and we have spoke about Hibs and how we think they can hurt us. But if we're looking at Sunday being the big fixture of the 2, is there anything there at the moment, regardless of them changing their manager, that worries you about them going forward? Because for me, over the last 3 years, I think we've had the voodoo sign where we've said Maida's lined up against Tav, and we've went, oh, here we go. You know what I mean? We've had the ball coming in for one winger, and the other winger's been there against the old fullback where Barisic's been sleeping at the back post. This weekend, I don't think we'll see that. So is the pressure off us in the sense that we can go and hunt? Because maybe the media aren't expecting too much for us, and maybe that just might be enough to kick us on.
Davie, I don't think they're a good team, to be honest with you. I spoke about this maybe 2 weeks ago when we were talking in work, and I combined 11 of Rangers and Celtic. Carter Vickers was one that we said would have played in that Old Firm 11. He's out the equation. Jota's out the equation. Maida's out the equation. Alistair Johnson's, mate, you'll never get a better chance. You'll never get a better chance. And to be fair, as bad as we've been over the last few seasons, last season, head-to-head, beat them over the course of the season. This year, as bad as we were under Russell Martin, played out a 0-0 draw, which would have got football stopped. I would like to think the minimum expectation for this week is to beat Kilmarnock and to beat Celtic, because I think that man for man, we've got better squads than both of those clubs. So it's up to me. It's a big one for me based on Danny Rohl. Is he going to be able to find a way? Is he going to be able to tinker it and turn that 0-0 the last time into a win and keep that momentum going? And if we can, do we then go and put our foot on their necks and start consistently winning games and putting pressure on in the league as well? And as I say, it'll be interesting based on how this week goes, how Danny Rohl grows into the Rangers manager's job, because as I say, the new, for me, he's doing a bit of crowd pleasing and crowd work. The likes of going out to apologise to the fans after the game in Europe that was expected, and the shaking all the reporters' hands in the press conference. I get what he's doing. He's trying to get folk on site. He's even wearing brown brogues. Like, nobody's wore brown brogues for 100 years. Like, people wear black shoes with him. Even Gerrard never wore brown brogues. But he's gone the full hog, and he's putting his heart and soul into it. But I just wonder if he'll still be going on approaching the fans if we don't have a good week this week, because I would hope everybody, similar to me, is got big expectations for Rangers this week, and I think it could be really pivotal towards A, getting the first trophy of the season in the bag, and B, really, really driving home the wedge between the opposition's fans and their board and their new manager and their expectation. Mate, there's an implosion there. All I'm saying is last night I seen Colander dash shopping for shark outfits on Amazon in case they need to head out to Leeds. So his and hers shark costumes.
Mate, that is almost a good place to leave it, but I want to touch on one last thing, because Rangers did hold their remembrance celebrations at the weekend because it's the last home fixture before Remembrance Sunday. And what I want to draw attention to is, whilst we're remembering, is Walter Smith, because it was 4 years since he sadly passed away. And I think, for me, Walter Smith was almost, what Rangers means to anybody. And whilst Ross has dropped out there, I'll try and carry this until he comes back in. I think Walter Smith epitomised to me what Rangers means to us as fans, and Walter Smith, delivered as a manager in 2 spells, and Walter Smith brought me, some of my happiest times. My mum sadly passed away in 2009, and one of my fondest memories is being together with my mum when we put Fiorentina out in penalties to get to, the UEFA Cup final. I think Walter Smith, for me, what sort of took him over being more than a Rangers manager was how he conducted himself and how he held himself at Tommy Burns' funeral. I just think, when we think, nobody's bigger than the club, the argument I would put against that is a modern day hero like Walter Smith. Everybody's heroes growing up will be people like Davie Cooper, people like Ali McCoy, Jim Baxter, Brian Laudrup, Paul Gascoigne, Jorg Alberts. But for me, the greatest hero that bleeds Rangers for me is Walter Smith. And I don't think that we can ever, forget him enough, remember him enough, and let's have a wee drink to Walter and a wee toast to him. Here's to you, Walter. Ross, any words to say on Walter Smith and what he means to you?
Mate, just Mr. Rangers. Obviously the first manager you remember when you're a young boy. Yeah, as you say, not your first hero. For me, that was Andy Gorham, obviously playing in goals, and who's also... So you need to appreciate these people while you've got them, and I think as a club, that's something that Rangers do. Walter Smith, larger than life. The interview in the tunnel with is it Archie McPherson when he's telling him
Chick Young,
when he's telling him that Basil Bolly can't play in Europe. Excellent, all that sort of stuff, mate. Just larger than life characters, but for a different era. Walter Smith, you can imagine when results weren't good. I bet it wasn't a nice dressing room to walk into. I bet he wasn't handing out cuddles and telling boys it'll be all right, we'll sort it next week. And they're just a dying breed, mate. As you say, Walter Smith, through his work with Scotland and the Tommy Burns connection, really brought together a lot of old firm fans when he passed away, and also obviously when Tommy Burns being a pallbearer at his funeral and stuff like that, mate. So just a wonderful guy for Scottish football, Davie. But as you say, it's lovely there that you've had a toast to him and his memories. And let's hope that we can get Rangers back to being as successful as we were under those kind of great men.
Absolutely, and I think that's the most perfect place to leave tonight's podcast. What I would like to say is, in terms of watching live, tonight has been our most popular show. We couldn't do it without everybody in the comments. We certainly appreciate your comments. Please like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends about us, and please, most importantly, join us again next week. And just before we go, I'd just like to say it's good night from him, and it's good night from me. Good night.
Audio Jungle.